So yeah, the amount of money spent on influencers now
Yeah.
for 2023, it's projected to be $21.1 billion on influencer marketing.
Hello and welcome to Pipeline. Today, Glenis and I are going to talk about some stories we were thinking about through the week, and we want to share those with you. In fact, one of them I would say is an epic customer success story. It's one that is known as in all Nordstroms where we started our professional career. This is probably the first story you hear when you're an employee. And it's just an example of doing great customer service for their customers. And it is called the Tire Story. So you say it better than I do. So I want you to kind of go over, where it was at, how it went down, and then what the customer basically, what the takeaway was, and why it's a success story.
Okay, so it happened in 1979 in an Alaska store, Fairbanks, and a customer comes walking into the store with a pair of old used tires and says, "I want to return these. I do not have a receipt."
And he walks into men's clothing.
Yeah.
And this guy's like,
Right. And so he had to figure out, the customer was insistent. He said, I think he first said, "I'm sorry, this is a clothing store."
Yeah.
He's trying to,
Or you must be confused.
Right,
down
right.
the street or whatever.
And so the customer said, "No, I bought these here." And so he says, "Okay." And so he just called like a random tire store, and they worked with him over the phone to try to figure out how much the tire was worth.
Yeah.
The two tires were worth. And, they were worn. He had to get out his measuring tape.
To see how much the cost would be back to the client.
Right. And ended up being $25.
Wow.
So he gave him his $25 back, and the customer was happy. He took his money and left. But the whole story was the customer was right.
Yeah.
Because he really did purchase them in that building
That has changed.
2 years before.
Right. Just changed ownership. So now Nordstrom's owns the store. And then, of course, he comes in there like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I bought this here.
Yeah.
And you guys told me
Yeah.
it was a guarantee." So that's pretty crazy. And then the big thing about this story that we're thinking about, and we got two other ones. So this is all going to be the same thread, but the big thing on this one was, number one, it's just instilled as the story of all stories for doing great customer service, doing the right thing for the customer,
Right.
which is really what's drilled into you early on. We're in our early 20s working at Nordstrom, and this is like the first story you hear about is the Tire Story, along with some others. But it just gives you an idea of how important it is to do the right thing for the customer, and that you'll be right no matter what. They'll back you up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as Nordstrom employees too, you're a salesperson that gives great service and support for the customer. Mm-hmm. You had personals and you wrote their names down. I mean, other stores, you have clerks that you ask for X, they bring out X. At Nordstrom, you ask for something and they bring out things that you didn't ask for, but they anticipated that you needed before you might not even know, right? Mm-hmm. Seasons change. They're always 3 months ahead. And so things like that, where you would see something come in and you would call your personals and say, "Hey, this just came in. I know you were looking for this earlier." Mm-hmm. Clerks don't do that.
No. So
that was a big kind of change, I think, for us. And what it did is it really instilled this sort of perception of the customer and what their needs are, and anticipating that. Mm-hmm. And we've built it into our own company. Mm-hmm. And everywhere we've ever really worked, we've just sort of, that ethos is sort of built in. And then the people that we worked with at 429 and some of the other stores, they took that, and then they took that into the .com era, and that became Zappos. So hello to everybody at Zappos. And that was really cool because they took the engine that was like supercharged, and they just put that in another vehicle, and that vehicle was the .com era, and that really worked, exceptionally well. I mean, Zappos was huge, and they got purchased by Amazon because they're of that customer service. But the big takeaway on the story, though, is that the reason that story continues for 4 decades now
Yes.
is because of other people telling that story worldwide.
Yeah, and somebody else is telling the story for Nordstrom.
Yeah, they're not telling it
Customers
themselves.
talk about it all the time. Customers know the story.
Yeah,
And it's the customer that makes the story just go and go and
yeah,
go.
that's what makes it go.
And I first heard about it in 1989 when I opened the store in Sacramento. I opened the store. Jim Nordstrom was the manager.
Wow.
And I worked there 8 years, and the customers always knew the story. And I was flabbergasted, like 40 years later, they're still talking about it.
Yeah,
that's only $25 that Nordstrom paid.
That's so crazy.
For an ad campaign for that. I mean,
yeah, that's
they didn't mean to do that. They didn't even do it.
No.
They didn't plan on it. It was just, the customer.
Yeah, and that's like the influencer kind of story, right? Where somebody says, "Wow, this is really great," and then they sort of take that, and you have there's an author that tells the story, and he travels around the world.
Yeah,
telling it.
And he was saying that he travels around the world, and people around the world have heard that tire story.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nordstrom Tire Story.
So that is the story of all stories. Yeah, again, that's something that we heard early on in our early 20s, and it just sort of stuck with us.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you and I were talking about was this guy on the skateboard for Ocean Spray. So that was another one that just blows my mind.
Yeah, so there's a guy named Nathan. Sorry, I don't know his last name, but he lives in Idaho. I do know that. And he had a skateboard, and he was riding on his skateboard, drinking Ocean Spray, had a selfie stick.
And singing Fleetwood Mac.
Singing a song, he wasn't even singing it. He was lip syncing to it. Yeah. And it was 15 to 20 seconds long. That's it. He ends up getting over 1 billion views and sold out Ocean Spray all across the country, all the shelves. And Ocean Spray said, "Oh my gosh, they had no idea that
They could never do that.
They could never do that."
There's no
way. And they were so grateful to him. They bought him a new truck, filled to the top with Ocean Spray, and somebody made him a skateboard, like a custom skateboard, and I think they're selling that. I mean, it's just...
That just shows you the power of the individual.
Yeah. Ocean Spray could have not done that.
Right.
If they made an ad of somebody skateboarding...
Right, it'd been like a Mountain Dew commercial. Like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a commercial.
Yeah. But from another person doing it, it has way more power.
It does.
Yeah. The power of influence.
There's something about that, though. And the psychology of it is really profound. And then this continues to be a growing trend and market. But before we sort of get into some of the numbers and stuff that I was thinking about, or at least you were telling me about, because I can't remember any of them. But the other thing I wanted to say was there's another thing that we were watching, a new movie called Air. And it's the story of Michael Jordan and how Nike, got him as a customer to represent their product. And man, there's just so many takeaways from this movie from a sales and marketing perspective, especially.
Yeah.
So we're looking at it, a little bit differently because the marketing guy was coming up with some great material that wound up being used within the pitch I would say it was very personal. That's like the very first thing I think of when I think of the movie is how personalized Nike was on their approach versus Converse and Adidas was just sort of like, you can be one of the people that, represent our product, but not very personal. And they didn't really, you're one in a number.
Right.
And then Nike comes, and they know that he's going to be an important piece, but of their future, if they could get into this and into this agreement with them. And so they build a whole product around him. And I think that was just incredible. Like the whole story's incredible, really.
Yeah, they personalized the shoe
Yeah.
for Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, much more personal, much more important. So and at the family level, like the mother was really involved in managing his career, and so the whole family's there, and they have a more of a heart to heart, real conversation with him at the end, and that's what sealed it. Was look, we see the future, we know he's going to be an incredible athlete, and Nike wants to be that brand that builds us around him, and he's going to have his own shoe, and seemed to work out pretty good. I think the numbers proved the gut instinct on that to be spot on. So that was a great story, though.
Yeah, it's another influencer.
Yeah, the influencer for all influencers, though.
Right. Huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that kind of does show that trend, though, and obviously that's an extreme example, but just the validity of having Michael Jordan's your subject matter expert in
Yes.
basketball.
Yes.
Nike is not.
Michael Jordan knows more about basketball than Nike.
Yeah.
So they used the perfect person.
Yeah, it was it's an incredible story on how they built that around him. But even if a company knows just as much or if not more than a subject matter
sure.
expert, I think the other thing is, and this is why this is a growing trend, is when a company says they're great, it's like, okay, yeah, it's an ad. It's always seen as an ad. Everyone's the greatest and the number one and the leading this or that.
And I won this award and that award and this.
Yeah. And from a customer perspective, it just comes off like more, marketing type of advertising. Really is what it's going to be. No matter how good the ad is, it's always going to be an ad. And that's why I think you see other people. I'll put it this way. Like when I look at a product, like I was looking at a camera today, and I was just sort of going through, I won't say the brand, but there's various camera models to look at for doing, videos like we're doing here today, but our other videos. And yeah, I don't go to the manufacturer to learn about the product.
No.
I go to other reviewers that talk about the product and how they're using it in their workflows and how well it performs.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get a more accurate kind of representation of the product. And usually it's faster. Like you're going to get something that just goes and gets to the point of what you're trying to get to, where you're not wrestling around the marketing material.
Yeah.
At least for me. So that's one of the big takeaways too, I think, of why the B2B market's growing. But you were telling me some numbers that I got it. So this is crazy.
So yeah, the amount of money spent on influencers now for 2023, it's projected to be $21.1 billion on influencer marketing.
So that's how much they're paying influencers?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So that just shows you that works.
And yes, it works because $992 billion was spent in sales in 2022. Not spent in sales, sorry. Made in sales.
So they made
that much more
909.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, that's how much in sales that they made on influencer marketing.
Wow.
And for they have a projected number of $2.9 trillion for projected to be by 2026 spent on social.
So it's just going to
influencer marketing. I'm not talking about regular from a brand. I'm talking about influencer marketing.
And I would separate
all these numbers I just said was specifically influencer marketing numbers.
And that's, if you separate everything out too, you're looking at, you got B2C and then you have B2B.
Yeah.
And so, and this is how it always goes is B2B looks, B2C is always kind of trending first on how they do things.
Yeah, sure.
And so I see the B2B market grabbing this more and more because they see it works. And now they're going to be like, wow, we're going to have to adapt this for B2B.
Yeah, and marketing is coming up with, specific influencer budgets
Okay.
Marketing budget for that now.
It's funny how
It's something like 93% now have an influencer marketing budget.
what's wild to me is, you call it a name, but it's like something that, historically we've already kind of helped customers with, which is you look at a problem that their client has and you're trying to educate basically the market.
Just answer their questions.
Yeah. And if you look at, I'll take security as an example. So the security market, we talk about layered security. That means there's a lot of different solutions that make up a whole solution. There's not, you don't just have one product. So it takes a whole bunch of them, right? So if I was an end user or a channel partner and I want to get educated on all of these different solutions, I have to go to each individual one to find stuff out. And then I have to go through the information to kind of get to the meat of it, right? Whereas if I can go to a source and learn about things and hear from people that know the industry or subject matter experts talking about how all these things fit together, to me that's just easier.
Yeah, especially if it's packaged in a similar way. They get the way that it gets laid out by the same person over and over. It's like, okay, this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This is funny. This is the terminology, that gets used for things, but you can see the effectiveness of influencer marketing. And on the B2B side, I would call it, at least for us, you have subject matter expertise plus good storytelling. In other words, you know how to create content for that market that connects the dots. Basically.
Copywriter.
Yeah. Because, you can have information, but if the information is boring, I mean, we've all sat through boring PowerPoint presentations. So there's a lot of video out there. In fact, if you look at just all of this in its entirety and what you see on the feed, right? We were talking about this earlier too, where you look at what you see on the feed, and there's a lot of posts that just have a logo on it, logo posts.
A logo photo.
Logo photo.
A photo logo, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
And, that does not engage someone.
No.
Okay, saw the picture.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is up there with like the trade show banner blindness you were talking about last time, where it's just like, okay, it's another one, it's another one, it's another one, it's another one. Because, at least on LinkedIn, it doesn't autoplay if you don't want it to. So a lot of times too, I'll see people with a just a black box where a video is, and there's just nothing there. There's no thumbnail. And so,
they need a graphic artist.
Yeah. Well, we take our time at all.
Well, we do all that. So,
but I think about, like, when I think about the thumbnail, when we're creating that, my inspiration is Gary Larson, right? The Far Side, where he would tell you a whole thing in just one pane instead of, all other comics had multiple to tell their story. He did it in one pane and would have like the Far Side was just great, right? Yeah. But he would tell a whole story. And to me, it's the same thing with a thumbnail. Like, what is this video about in one thumbnail, and try to understand that. And so that's always the goal, is to explain what's going to be inside this package before you even click on it. And then, like, again, if you're scrolling through, those videos are not autoplaying a lot of times. People think they are, and they're not. And then the other thing we were talking about is just, if it's just a photo, especially blog posts, things like that, I don't think the click-through rate is very great with that content. So I would say it's between good copy, meaning somebody just says something that's kind of witty and that is true, or having a video that dives into, information about a product. And then there's different types of video.
Right. So
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's just raw,
Yeah.
Walk and talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't really need to be, but if you're trying to explain something like an explainer video, you kind of have to have a script. You don't want to go off track and on a rabbit trail on accident. You want to stay focused. You want to show some diagrams, whatever it is.
And that's where the production part comes into it. So but you have ads. And this is, I think, the big takeaway that we had earlier was you just see on when you see any video almost from any company, what is it?
It's usually a product dancing around to music, and
Yeah.
that's it.
So it's just like, oh, this is cool.
And it's so often that it could be any product. It doesn't.
Yeah, after a while they start blurring together.
It's juice spinning around to music. It's a camera spinning around to music. They're all the same. It's just after a while it does not engage someone.
It doesn't tell
it doesn't give them any information.
Yeah.
It's just here it is, or
I call it brag posts. So a lot of it too is just like, oh, we won this, or we did this, or look at us, or here we are at this thing, at whatever insert event. And I think, again, this is because of our Nordstrom kind of start, is the reason, and I'm not saying that those things don't have a fit in the feed, but you have to also have information for them to digest. And I think, well, there's two things. That if you're thinking about the client and you're putting material together, that's cool. You got to have that. But I also think it's really important to have someone else tell your story, because you telling your story is going to no matter what, it's going to be more of an ad. Even if it's an explainer, it's still going to be more of an ad versus, when I look at reviews on Amazon or anywhere, I'm on there to learn about something. Mm-hmm. And I think other people kind of describing a product or going through, how it works, there's just a lot of legitimacy to that.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell more about whatever it is through video.
Yeah.
No matter who you are. And I think the photos with logos on them has become oversaturated.
Yeah,
and
it worked. You did it.
Yeah, I mean, it used to work.
Yeah.
But everyone's doing that now, and it's just, whatever the picture is, it's just a logo in front of the picture.
Yeah, after a while, you're just skipping through it.
And it's not personal.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, some people will have something better than others as you're going through, but it is interesting to kind of break those things down.
And to see how effective each one might be.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what we do for a living is we do look at trends and then also what's the effectiveness of this particular thing at this time.
Right.
And then those things change over time. So it's like if we were doing what we did 10 years ago, then that wouldn't work very well. So I think that's another big issue is people get comfortable doing the exact same kind of tactics or whatever you want to call that. And then it becomes less and less effective. I mean, in sales, that's extremely true.
Yeah.
Because, just in terms of email copy that goes out, what worked 2 or 3 years ago would sound ridiculous right now. Mm-hmm. So you always have to be changing and adapting to where the customer is and understanding them. I mean, there's certain things that'll never go out of style, and that is know your customer, do your research, understand what problems they're actually going through so you can sort of anticipate what their needs would be. There's just a lot of lazy kind of, I think, sales tactics that go out there, and you can't make up for doing the research and understanding the client. And that's another big piece, like I was saying, is like, before anyone buys a product, the first thing they do is they research. And so if you're going out and you're looking at, I want to understand more about this product and everything, they're doing that before ever calling the company. So if you're not investing in helping these customers, this is like, I guess, dark funnel, right? So these customers are not on your radar yet, but they're on the website. They're trying to find out about your products. And so I think a lot of people put like these kind of barriers. Usually it's, fill out this form and then you're going to get pestered to death by our salesperson versus here's information. Here's information. Here's information. What do you need? So that way you can speed up that sales process by giving them everything they could possibly need to make an informed decision. And I think the companies that do that are going to do better, especially now. Now it's high stakes. Now it's like, okay, you could probably get away in a good market with kind of poorer methodologies, I guess, of having your website and information that you're putting out there. But now it's going to be, people are going to make choices and keep things or not keep things. And I think the companies that are thinking about the customer deeply and anticipating what they need before they're on their site, that's going to be a winning combination right there. So
yeah, that's really just thinking about the customer.
yeah,
Like the whole thing is for the customer. Your videos should be for the customer. Your product is for the customer. So,
and that's the thing. It's like they create products for the customer, so they had to think about all this stuff, right? From just a day-to-day standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like, what are you doing on,
right,
on the marketing component? Like to me, video obviously and Wave Media, which launched recently, is about creating videos for our clients and doing it in a way that it's from us, not from them. But I was going to say that's a marketing component. But our thing is we work together, from marketing and sales, working together tightly to everything should basically help to educate that client. So that way you speed up the sales process and you're actually helping your salespeople.
Yeah. And I think having another person telling your story, telling about your product, it just gets more views. It's more interesting to them. We see the feedback.
Yeah. Oh, that's a huge thing.
And on top of that, I just kind of wanted to go back to this. There's macro influencers, which are like a celebrity. They've got millions of people following them.
Yeah.
And then there's micro influencers. And when they did a study I think this last few months ago, they found that micro influencers had more sales, more influence over the audience because they have more of a relationship with them.
Sure.
If somebody has millions of people following them, there is no relationship there.
Yeah.
And so it was really surprising, those numbers, because the micro influencers were the ones that actually sold way more.
That's cool.
Yeah. Because people want that. They want to engage with someone else. They want to ask them questions. We get emails. They ask us about these things.
Right.
And we're engaging with our audience every day. It's not just a video we're engaging them them on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, the video component is just the evolved presentation where you see presentations that are really bad and you're like, oh my gosh, you're putting everyone to sleep. Stop it. And so you're like brevity, keeping things kind of spot on. And then to me, video is just the new way of me to explain things and break things down so it's understandable and it gets to the point and it doesn't go around and around in circles. So I guess the idea is that that's sort of the new way of doing that. But I had to drive from place to place to place to place to do the presentation. So if I was doing 5 meetings a day, that's driving all over the place. And then if you can do this where you're creating these videos and you're educating at scale, then to me that's sort of a no-brainer. Like you're kind of bringing all these best components that we've seen over the years. And I think of Tech Expo. Like the idea there was we're going to create a road show and we're going to have all this great technology. And then we're going to talk about how these things apply to the customer that uses them, right? And we had the chief of police in San Diego. We had an admiral on. We had just a host of great speakers, Qualcomm. And what I liked about it was that it was an ability to showcase all this really great technology to end users and channel partners. And to me, the next phase of that really is what we're doing with Wave Media is, how do you do that at scale on demand? Nobody wants to watch a webinar when they're supposed to, and I think live material is great. And then small short form material is kind of the direction we're kind of going to.
Yeah, and that show, I mean, there was a lot of effort put into that show.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time to make, but it's a lot easier to do video after video after video versus, okay, we did this one show
Right.
and that's my one a year
Yeah.
video.
Well, I got to fold everything
And I
up
mean,
and
you were on
take it
the
on the road.
news and everything. Okay, now what are you going to do next? And you're like, well, you need to keep, it's the relationship you're building with your audience, your your potential clients or whatever.
Yeah.
So you can't just do a couple of trade shows a year. That's not, and not everybody can go there either.
No, and to me, the other vision of it is that you're working with whoever. Like, meaning, if I like this product, that I want to talk about it, and I want it to be included in sort of the larger scope of, again, layered security in this case. And I think, if you take what kind of drives us, again, is, how do you put these things together in an informative format? That's a nice one to say, isn't it? And I think we did that, but we just did it in a paradigm that was limited by travel and setting things up.
In the physical world.
Yeah, yeah.
And even with the physical world, within that world, it's so and so isn't in the office right now, so you can't go and show them what you want to show them. So
that, and the thing I like about creating a video is that it allows you to kind of take your time and put together exactly how you want this to be laid out. And like you said, you can have, infographics and different things on there and tell that story. And then just, to me, it's all about keeping it, brief. People don't have a ton of time to, just listen to a billion of these things. But they can. But to me, it's just like, okay, here's this little snippet about something, and then just kind of keep those going. But yeah, what you're seeing and what the ideas you're talking about this week, that just blows my mind. Those numbers are crazy. And I think that we're heading that way. We just sort of kind of stumbled on that, really. I mean, we didn't intend to do that. I think we just used our knowledge of the market and what we liked.
We're just trying to help somebody understand something so that they can make a decision.
Yeah.
And quickly.
Right.
And if they don't want it, they can move on.
That's right.
So, and it is the audience that shapes what we make.
Oh, that's 100%.
For them. So they'll comment or tell us, oh, can you do this or try this instead or whatever, and we just shape our video for them. They're the ones that tell us what they want.
Yeah. I mean, even for this, I would love if anybody has any ideas for marketing and sales and questions you would have for either one, because there's going to be marketers that listen to this because of you, and then maybe some salespeople, and then we could, because these two worlds seem to not mesh enough, and it's so important. You look at that Air movie, and it's marketing, sales, just totally rocking that whole thing together.
Yeah, and
it just showed you the power of that. And I did check out the music on that. I was like, did this song really come out in 1984? But it actually came out in 83, so it was that Night Ranger song.
Oh, okay.
It was legit. It did hit the right time frame there. But anyway, it was a good movie. I think it was fun to see how they put all that together, and I think Matt Damon and Ben Affleck did a good job.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if anyone has anything else they took away from that movie.
Yeah.
Put it in the comments. Maybe we missed something.
It would be kind of fun to see what a marketer, what their insights were on it. And then what the salespeople, what they're thinking. I know there's, the personalized, the very end when he's talking to the mom and the dad and Michael Jordan, and he gets, got rid of like the standard kind of presentation and then just really leaned in. And I think that's good when you speak from the heart and people realize that, no, we really think these things and we really believe in our, not only our products, but in the person. It just shows.
Yeah.
And that's what they saw. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah, especially right now. I mean, it literally dovetailed all through what we wanted to talk about, which is sort of this idea of other people telling someone's story, or they're highlighting their brand, however you want to say that, where, I think of all the different people that I watch about a product, and it's always somebody else other than the brand talking about it. It's just wild.
It's funny, isn't it? I know, you just don't even think about it. It's just very personalized.
Yeah.
Human to human. Here's it is. If it's the company making their own video, it's just not watched. It just isn't.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's seen as,
well, I don't know. Let me see about that.
Yeah, it's a trip.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big takeaway, and that's going to be a high growth, you're saying, for 2023 and on. Wow. So that'll be interesting to see how all these things go, and what the timing is for us, as a company that does sales and marketing, and really focuses on for us, the future is video and what we're doing, because we're finally really able to take, our experience in copywriting. You had video, TV background, and all these things are sort of meshed together. And we're just having fun, putting these things to the use for the client to help them. And we see a niche that isn't being filled, at least, in certain areas, at least. I mean, I'm sure there's other B2B influencers that are out there, but, not doing exactly what we can do. So that's the difference, I think.
Yeah, in television and radio, too, that it's the demographics that you sell, or that you put your ad on for those demographics.
True, yeah.
So social media is a little different.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to know what you're going for. Who are you speaking to? You don't just make one random video and that's it. Like, it's more, you make a video for this age group. You make a video for that age group, and you're going to put it on this platform and then put this one on the other platform. I mean, it's a lot more intricate,
I think,
than television. They're just buying a program.
Right. But when we're creating a video, it's going to be on an application that's being solved.
Yeah.
And so that sort of just goes out. And in terms of that demographic, it's going to be a security manager.
Right.
Right. And then the system integrators that cater to that market. But you're right. Like, for us, it's not just a security person.
Right.
It's what vertical are they in? Because their needs are going to be different than somebody in a different vertical. Even though it's security, it's still different. So yeah, it's true. Like, each one's going to be a little bit different.
We even have end users that are pretty amazing.
I know. Again, if you from the heart, if we're just doing what we think is right, in terms of, I just want to provide great information and package it in a kind of infotainment way, I think
they love it.
Yeah.
But more what we've heard.
And
if they don't, we'll hear that and we'll change it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So if anybody has ideas on our stuff, we'd love to hear that. But I think, this is all we want to do is really help customers explain. This is what we've always done. We help them to explain what their product does and what it does well and how it compares to other products. And that's really it. Like, you're educating somebody on something, just like I want to get educated if I'm looking at software or a camera or whatever it is. I'm trying to find out more about it so I make the right decision. Yeah. And so is a customer. So it really doesn't matter what you're buying. Somebody's just trying to figure out, is this the right one? And so anyway, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So I like it. Anything else that you can think of that we should talk about, like that we've been talking about this week, that you think I didn't remember? Which probably happens a lot.
I thought you were going to talk about the Sales Loft software.
Yeah, that's right. So they came out with Rhythm, which is their AI component. And what I like about it is it just helps. So it's sales engagement platform is in addition to a CRM. So this kind of rides on top of the CRM. And it's like a heads up display of everything you need to get done. And it organizes things and it helps you with your outreach campaigns and things like that, right? So a lot of times the people who are using a sales engagement platform are under marketing. because they're doing sort of outbound marketing
Mm.
as their job, and or they could be selling to the channel and they could be using it to keep organized. But what's cool about Rhythm, and I can't wait to kind of play around with it. Maybe I'll do a video on just how this thing works, what I think about it, my impressions, because we've been using SalesLoft for quite a long time. I started using it in 2018. We were using a product called Relate IQ, which was way ahead of its time. And then that got purchased by Salesforce and then sort of got limited in terms of some of the enterprise features that we needed. So we wound up going with SalesLoft on top of our CRM. And what that does is allows you to organize your day, organize what are called cadences. And it's just kind of next level in terms of making you way more efficient. And so the idea of AI on top of that, being like a little co-pilot, telling me, "Hey, you forgot to do this," or this is more of a priority, and even I guess helping with some of the keystrokes of creating an outbound, maybe it's a follow up email or whatever. That's just super cool. So there's so much talk about AI, and I don't talk about it because it's sort of like early.
Yeah.
And everyone's just going gangbusters on talking about ChatGPT and all these things. But of course, we're looking at this stuff and we're seeing what can really help. And to me, this is what's cool: is a software program like SalesLoft taking AI and making it usable inside their product. So it's very specialized, and I just think that's where the market's going to go. So we help our clients with implementing SalesLoft and kind of fine tuning it. And so we'll have more up on this later. But yeah, it's early. I haven't even had a chance to play with it yet, so I can't wait to kind of see what this will do for us. But nothing's like a magic bullet. You still have to do work, and you still have to research your customers and
Mm-hmm.
and be personal and do all the things that are really important. And I think it's funny. It's like marketing is seeing the benefit that sales saw and personalizing, knowing the customer,
Mm-hmm.
getting more information about the customer. Like I said, for whatever reason, sales and marketing just didn't communicate a lot of stuff. Like they're sort of like, this is ours over here, and don't talk to our customers. And where we've never done that, of course, because we're working together on all this stuff. And I think when you really plug into the customer and their needs and understanding how to shape your products and services around them, that's where the magic happens. So for all the sellers out there, you got to help your marketers because they can help you exponentially do a better job. And the reason you see newsletters go out that aren't customized is because you're not helping them to customize newsletters for each specific type of customer. And maybe if you help them to explain, no, this is really what we should be talking about, or this is how the product actually works in the real world, those are all things they want to know. And I think, there's a lot of sales tools that are great and they tell you a lot. I mean, we see quite a bit on our dashboard, but it still doesn't really get into the customer mindset. I think that really does take a human telling, what's going on from the ground. And so I think that's really important. But yeah, I mean, I think sales and marketing working together more, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, sure.
You look at Air. Air is a great example.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was sort of the big download from the last week of things that we were talking about. And I would just say again, I would love to know what a seller's ideas were about Air versus the marketing side, what their thoughts were on that.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting little take in the comments.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool just to see what people's thoughts were compared to each other. But anyway, that was our edition of Pipeline. I hope you enjoyed it. We love making these just because we talk about a lot of stuff through the week, and Sunday's sort of our day to chat about all this stuff, and we'll just do it on air and talk about these things that I think are trends or things that are going to help marketers and sellers. And at the end of the day, it's going to help their customers to find their products and enjoy their solutions. So That's our story. Thank you for joining us for Pipeline, and until next time, take care. Bye-bye.